Pete Thamel has gone on. Pete Thamel of ESPN went on the McElroy and Kubelik in the Morning radio program to talk about conference championship games. And he talked about the decrease in relevancy of conference title games last year because of the playoff. Jimmy, before I get to propose fixes, I want to just ask you on a broader sense. How much of a pickle are leagues like the SEC and the Big Ten? And when they have the networks are expecting a lot of value that they've paid for these conference title games, and they just don't carry the same weight that they once did.
They don't carry as much weight. And for some schools, it's not as important as it used to be. I still think for some schools, if they could win the SEC, it would be a big deal. It would be for Ole Miss, right?
Yep.
Now, you're in the playoff anyway, but for Alabama and Georgia, it's not that big a deal. It would be actually for Tennessee. When's the last time Tennessee won the SEC?
98.
That's right. So it would matter for Tennessee. It would matter for some programs that haven't done it in a while. The interesting thing that I'm hearing, and I don't know if they'll ever get to this, is that the SEC is looking at having a 4-team playoff to determine the order of their qualifiers for the college football playoff. I don't know how you pull that off. I don't know how you do that. And you're also asking your players to play an extra game or two along the way. Well, an extra game for sure. I don't know how you do. I'm not sure how you can manage that.
Yeah. I mean, I've said this before. I would rest my starters and throw the conference game because I'd rather save my energy for the playoff. I mean, look at Georgia last year with Carson Beck getting hurt in the SEC title when they were already in the playoff and it didn't matter. And what? You did that so you could get a first round bye? Well, who cares? Because if the way the seating is set up, your first weekend, you get a home game anyway, and you usually get it. I mean, would you rather get a first round bye having to win the conference title game or just play a home game in the first round of the playoff against SMU or whoever that might be at the time?
Yeah, I can see that point. You have the same argument with the SEC men's basketball tournament. Do you want to reach it and play for it or not? And by the way, and I'm sure you remember with the first expanded college football playoff, none of the top 4 seeds that got the byes won. None of them.
None of them.
1, 2, 3, 4 seeds, they all lost.
Yep.
And Georgia, I think you could attribute that to the injured quarterback.
But the quarterback got injured from them playing in the SEC championship game.
That's right. So, so that I just thought that was really weird. I never expected to see that occur, that all of the top 4 seeds would lose in the first game they play.
All right, so we're going to play a little 4 downs because I'm going to talk to you about some of the suggested ways to fix the conference championship weekend. First, hit that like and subscribe, everybody. First down, and Jimmy, this is the big one, and I want to see what you think. You talked about a playoff. What's really being one of the big things being talked about is not a playoff per se, but a play-in format. So, for instance, rather than have the top 2 teams play for the conference champion, say there's automatic qualifiers for the SEC and the Big Ten. Well, if there's automatic qualifiers, like they're guaranteed 4 playoff spots in the upcoming playoff, the proposal is that 4 and 5 play rather than 1 and 2, and 4 and 5 play, and it's a play-in game to get to the college football playoff. And that's where they think they could add value. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, in this format, I think it's really the best solution, honestly.
And you don't have a conference championship game.
Yeah, no conference championship game. Just the team that finishes first wins the conference.
I'm not a big fan of that.
Okay.
And is there more value to that, or is there more value to watch Georgia and Texas duke it out for TV?
For TV, I think many people believe there's more value to 4 versus 5 because there's so much more at stake if you're playing to get in, particularly when we now know that they're looking at expanding the playoff to 16 teams. So you're not even playing for a first round bye if you're playing in your conference championship game at that point.
Okay. All right. So tell me, in the Big Ten, who would 4 and 5 be?
So the Big Ten last year, let's see, Penn State, Oregon, and Ohio State were the top 3. So it would have been Indiana because here's the thing. One of the things, I don't think they're going to do this based on conference standings. Actually, Jimmy, I think they're just going to do this based on like who's ranked the 4 highest teams in the conference. So that's one of the reports I've been heard. So if they did it that way, you would have had Indiana playing Illinois to get in.
And so what kind of ratings you going to get for that?
I don't know, but the other thing they floated is have 4 play 5 and 3 play 6, but the top 2 get automatic bids. And in that case, you would have had Indiana play Illinois, and then you would have had Penn State play Michigan, not Michigan, excuse me, Penn State play Iowa, and then just the top 3 teams get in. If this were the SEC talking, you would have had Texas and Georgia automatically get in, and then you would have had Tennessee play South Carolina and Alabama play LSU. Now, I will say, if you had Tennessee and South Carolina and Alabama versus LSU as 2 play-in games for the SEC, I bet those 2 together would draw way better than Georgia Texas did.
They might draw better. I don't know if they would draw way more. But my issue is not just the SEC. I'm looking at the Big Ten. I don't think the Big Ten's as deep as the SEC, right?
Not in terms of schools with fan support. You're right about that.
Yeah. So what's the appeal in doing that? And do you think the SEC would do that, but the Big Ten not?
No, there's no way that's going to happen.
Yeah. I would rather see the conference championship game between the 2 best teams.
Okay. So second down as a proposed solution. How about just ditch the conference championship games and just have every team play and just add a week to the regular season. Have every team play the week after December, the first week of December, and then the regular season champion is the champion again. It's just an extra game for everybody.
Okay, I don't like that one either, and here's why. You're not playing everybody. You got 16 teams. You're playing 8 conference games. So there's 7 teams in your conference you're not playing. So your schedule could determine who's your regular season champion. If you got the weaker schedule, you win the SEC.
I don't think there's much difference with the conference championship game, though, because the top 2 teams could just be the top 2 teams that had the weaker schedules, and maybe the third team is the best team in the league at that point. So that's the only thing I would push back on with that.
Well, we haven't seen an example of that yet, and because it's so new.
That's true.
I get that. I do think Texas and Georgia were the 2 best teams in the league last year. Don't you?
Somewhat, although I thought Texas did cash in on a very weak SEC schedule to get to the conference title game. But I think the SEC was a bit down last year. To go to third down real quick, and here's another proposal. I'm sorry, what?
No, go ahead.
Okay. A third proposal is, again, all of these I'm saying are just the value of conference champions is totally going away if you have a 16-team playoff. But so a third down proposal is ditch them and just expand the playoff. Add an extra week to the playoff. Instead of 3 weeks, make it 4 weeks. Make conference championship week like a play-in week for the playoff.
So, and then you'd make a determination of your number 1 seed from the SEC based on a committee?
Yeah, pretty much.
Gosh. I hate putting things in the hands of committees.
I do too, but the schedule imbalance I hate being in the hands of too. Real quick, I got to give you a quick message.
Which is why I would like them to go to 9 conference games. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, quick message from Ted Russell Ford, then I'll bring up fourth down real quick. Quick message from Ted Russell Ford.
Like a blast from the past, the Super Dealer is back. Look to the skies, Knoxville. The Super Dealer is fighting for price, service, and the American made. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer. Save up to $4,350 on a new Ford F-150 XLT, or get into a new Ford Ranger XLT with no payments for 90 days. Come see the Super Dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford.
All right, Jimmy, fourth down is just don't change anything and accept that they're going to be devalued, but still have them. Sounds like that's where you're landing.
It is where I'm landing. Yeah.
So just accept that they won't mean as much, and that there might be some teams, Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss would definitely do this, that if they know they're in the playoff, might just rest their starters for the conference title game.
Like they do in the NFL?
Yes. Or like I still maintain Rick Barnes might have thrown the SEC tournament. So that's where Jimmy is, guys. Jimmy's like, don't change anything.